Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Braintree District Council Cabinet on the March meeting. Start with the apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Tattersley, who has unfortunately got COVID, Councillor Abbott, and we also have apologies from Kim Cole, who also has COVID. So all three have sent their apologies, but Councillor Abbott, I think, is fine. Are there any other apologies? I think everybody else is here. Fine, okay. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest any member wishes to make at this stage? No? Okay. Move on to item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. These were the minutes of the meeting on the 7th of February. They have been circulated. Are members content that I sign them as a true record?
Yeah,
agreed. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
sorry, beg your pardon.
Right. On reflection, it would be transparent to declare a member of Essex County Council because I will be moving a report where Essex County Council are one of the 7 partners in the North Essex Economic Board, and I think it would be appropriate to declare not only as a member of that, but also as the Deputy Cabinet Member for Economic Renewal, Infrastructure and Planning on that authority. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me. I think I will also take that of declaring a member of Essex County Council on that item. Right, okay. No public question time tonight. No members of the public have indicated that they wish to make any contribution at this stage. So we'll go straight on to item 5 under Finance and Corporate Transformation. 5A, the Service and Infrastructure Upgrade. Now, members will be aware that there is a private paper linked with this public paper, which appears on pages 111 to 116 of the private agenda. As is usual, we will deal with as much, if not all, in public session if we can. But if any member does wish to refer to an item in paper 10A, would they please indicate, and we will go into private session for that item. If not, are you happy that we note, well, no, we agree that the report has a confidential appendix which is not for publication as it includes exempt information falling within paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended. Agreed? Okay, and I'll take it at the moment that no one is going to make reference. If we do, please indicate early and we will move into private session to do that. Without more ado, then I'll ask Councillor McKee to introduce the paper. Councillor McKee.
Thank you, Leader. This shouldn't take long. We have reviewed this at strategy workshops and the like, but I will just briefly introduce what we are discussing this evening. The current server infrastructure equipment was commissioned by our previous IT provider, Capita, in July 2015. This equipment will reach its end of life during 2022. Although it's possible to continue to use the equipment beyond this date, it would introduce a real risk of equipment failure that could be costly in terms of working time lost, recovery, maintenance, and any failures were to occur. It's vital the Council has full resilience within server infrastructure and needs to replace the servers, the data storage facility, and the backup system. Currently, the Council's digital strategy is to deploy a hybrid model to deliver the most cost-effective service. The strategy is to provide IT support from on-premise servers and data storage when this is the most cost-effective solution. However, where it is more appropriate and cost-effective, the option to deploy a cloud-based solution where the servers and data are accessed via the internet is chosen, for example, Microsoft Office 365. When considering the options to replace the current system, 3 were considered, including do nothing. However, this has been discounted for it would introduce a strategic and operational risk that is unacceptable. The 2 options considered were an all-cloud or a hybrid solution. However, some of the applications in use are not suitable for cloud deployment, and advice from consultants support the recommendation that a hybrid solution is optimum to retain the server room and upgrade the server's storage and backup system. The detailed reasoning for this are in your papers and outlined further detail in section 4 of the report. But in summary, this is considered to be the most financially efficient solution and resilient for the Council. This is a significant investment detailed in the confidential appendix. However, this will be the first major investment in the IT infrastructure since the service was brought back in-house in 2015. And I believe that the ICT department provides value for money service for the residents, staff and members. I'm happy to take any questions now before I make the recommendations to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor McKee. Any comments or questions, anyone? No?
Okay, the recommendations are in your document. It's recommended that Cabinet agree that the Council continue to operate a hybrid model and take steps to replace the server infrastructure. Agree that the Council undertake the appropriate procurement process for the provision of the replacement of the Council's server infrastructure in line with the budget set out in the confidential appendix. Delegate authority to the Corporate Director Operational to award the contract at the conclusion of the procurement process, provided the contract is within the approved budget as set out in the confidential appendix. I so move.
So thank you. Those recommendations are exactly the same as the recommendations on pages 111 to 112 of the confidential paper. There's no difference in that. So in approving one, we will approve the other. Are you happy to approve the recommendations?
Yep.
Agreed. Thank you very much.
Agreed.
We'll move on to item 5B, third quarter performance management report. Again, Councillor McKee, please. And this is on page 11 to 44 of your agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to. You've all got the report. You've all read it. I'm sure. It's. I mean, in synopsis, actually, it's been a high-performance quarter. I'll give you a bit of the headlines and then take some questions. This is the first report against the new Bouncing Back Together document and will reflect on the progress of the actions required to help our district recover and grow over the next few years. As of the end of December 2021, 2 projects are complete, 5 are on track and progressing well, and 10 projects have an amber status due to supply chain issues on some of our larger projects, which will ultimately push back the end dates. Other reasons for amber projects are around resources and prioritising workloads, but interestingly, it's largely date move, not project problems that are involved in those amber status. 8 performance indicators have met or exceeded their target, 3 performance indicators have missed target by less than 5%, and 2 performance indicators missed their target by more than 5%. Commentary has been added to performance indicators not meeting target, advising of the reasons and, if applicable, the action being taken to improve performance. Key achievements in the third quarter. A high street improvement scheme was launched in December 2021 to improve the look and feel of shop fronts in our high streets. The grants will cover the cost of labour up to the value of £1,000 and will support practical measures such as cleaning, general exterior repairs and renovation. Expressions of interest has been very high and a number of applications are being reviewed or being received. Successfully delivered the Braintree Christmas light switched on, the first big event to make the most of the new pedestrianised area with more than 50 market stalls alongside live festive entertainment. Launched a funding for business to invest in cycle storage facilities. Launched a number of successful campaigns to encourage residents to reduce waste and increase recycling over the Christmas period. Launched the Council's climate change strategy during COP26 week with a number of climate change actions, videos demonstrating how businesses, residents, schools, community groups and individuals are working to tackle climate change across our district, including the successful Creative Climate Challenge, where schools produced art work to show how they feel about climate change. Worked with parish councils, town councils, schools, community and voluntary groups to plant a total of 18,700 native trees and 73,000 bulbs across the district. Increased the number of passenger journeys to the elderly and more vulnerable residents, assisting with taking them to vaccination appointments, delivering food parcels, as well as shopping and social activities. Work with Community 360 to provide activities and a nutritious meal to more than 440 children, supporting their families during the winter school holidays. Distributed a Here to Help newsletter to over 800 residents, providing information on activities and services in the areas such as seated exercise, scams, useful contacts, helplines, befriending, mental health, home safety and the handyman service, among many other initiatives and services. iConstruct, a £2.3 million centre of excellence for construction innovation, open for business. The hashtag Love Braintree District Shop Local campaign was launched in December to encourage shoppers to support independent businesses and traders in the run-up to Christmas. Feedback from businesses featured said they believe the campaign made a difference for their sales during December. 2 additional business adaptation grants funding were delivered, distributing a total of £479,000 in time for Christmas. The council was able to offer the additional grants to other local authorities, declined the funding, as other local authorities declined the funding. A further 111 affordable homes were delivered in the third quarter, taking the total for the year to 301. I now turn to the financial performance. As at the end of December 2021, taking into account the projected impact of COVID and variations to the best budget, the net budget position forecast for the year is a positive variance of £699,000. The estimated budget impact of the pandemic in 21-22 is £868,000. This is expected to be offset by funding received from government, currently leaving a balanced position. The forecast position regarding the base budget is a positive variance of £699,000. The proposal for the 22-23 budget included £367,000 of savings that are reflected in the project outturn, as these were considered to be ongoing. After taking into account other planned movements and balances, the projected change in general fund balances is an increase of £191,000. Expenditure of £21.8 million on capital projects up until the end of December, with spending mainly being incurred on Horizon 120 Business Park infrastructure, now completed, the new Horizon 120 Enterprise Centre, iConstruct, the Manor Street Regeneration Scheme, Town Centre improvements and the Halstead Leisure Centre artificial pitch. I'll stop there and take questions.
Thank you, Councillor McKee. Any comments or questions anyone has? Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chair. Well, one or two things that sort of grabbed me as I read this agenda item on sort of page 19 of delivering corporate strategy, people and places, says negotiations in respect of the lease for the Live Well hub are ongoing. And now I asked, I think in the middle of last year, a question about sort of progress on the hub, and the answer then I was given was that provide we're having negotiations with a GP practice as regards to a sublease, is it this fact that's related to the ongoing situation, or is there a more fundamental problem with Provide itself and the lease? That's the first question. A supplementary associated with that, perhaps. When we originally designed the hub, we thought that it could include general practice, outpatient service, some kinds or several kinds, and therapies. Have we got any idea what the practice, what the provision will be, what the package will look like when it comes on stream, what the mix will be? That's the second question. Third one, good performance indicators, targets met on affordable housing delivered, and homes granted planning permission. So that's encouraging. But when the planning committee turns down speculative developments, there are concerns from officers who think perhaps we should be feeding our 5-year housing land supply total as it were as we go along. So we should be considering that we should allow some of these unallocated sites to keep the numbers up, as it were. Now we've beefed up sort of planning enforcement. It was really good. Officer support, cross-party support. Have we given any consideration for a sort of a hit squad at the other end of the process? Officers who are dedicated to ensuring that the planning permissions that are given, and we're given lots of them, as we see from the records before us today, that those planning permissions are actually built and therefore count in our 5-year supply, because unless they're enacted, they lie there until they fall off the figures, and we're no further forward and always sort of playing catch up. I just wonder if something like that might be considered. And final one, we've suspended some of the targets because of COVID. When are we going to sort of rejigly the targets now that COVID, as we've been told, is at an end?
Thank you, Councillor Mann. I'll ask Councillor Mrs. Spray to deal with the planning one, if I may. My understanding, I'll just check, that we have now reinstated all our targets for the 18-month period? Yeah. So we are all back in. Remember, we said we would do in October, so they are now there on that. And then on the, then I'll come to, I think it's probably Councillor Bowers, on the Live Well hub in the centre. Okay, fine. So first of all, Councillor Mrs. Spray, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Mann. Frustratingly, we are really very limited in what we can do to make developers start building. We give them permission, give them the tools to do it. There is, as I know you're aware, a 3-year timescale during which they have to start, and if they don't, and that lapses, and they are supposed to come back to us with a refresh, it is frustrating because a number of the applications that we've granted, you don't see any activity, and therefore it doesn't go towards our overall number of homes built. So that is frustrating. Strong representations have been made over the last 12 months in particular to the government with the planning white paper, which is languishing, I think, on a minister's desk somewhere, that it would be very good if that particular issue was beefed up and that we had more control over when they started to build. So that's a bit frustrating. I will just say, with the new enforcement posts, there are two of those officer positions are concerned with looking at sites to make sure that conditions that the planning committee in particular attaches to those approvals are carried out, and that they are carried out correctly, and that any variations are adhered to. So that is something that will improve considerably now that we've got the extra staffing for that. But as I say, making the developers get on and build remains a frustration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just if I don't pick up everything that you want, Councillor, just let me know, because I think I've got the gist of the whole question. So in regards to the Live Well Hub, obviously we've got the Victoria Square development, bus park now open, Travel Lodge is now up and running. The Live Well Hub is a key part of the development overall. And I know yourself, as well as myself, have been asking all the time about the GP provision and where we're at with that. I can't give you a definitive tonight in regards what is going to go in there. The plan is still for GP provision, but that is not being secured at the moment. We're not liable financially as a council or anything like that, but it's more about, so we're not a risk in that regard. That is all covered. But the important thing aside from that is to be able to provide the services we want to provide. The unit is of a large size and it's come on very nicely, and I think it's something that we can be proud of. We just need to make sure we've got something to go in there that we can be proud of too. So it's ongoing work, but the actual overall arching aim of what we've always been trying to do hasn't changed. I can assure you of that, but I can't give you any more definitives tonight. But we are working every day on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
We should just
through you. Be sure I'll ask again.
And be absolutely assured that we shall continue to press the NHS. We have helped to provide the facility. It now needs the NHS to provide the clinical and medical manpower to go into that to provide that service. But you can rest assured that we will be chasing them as hard as you will be asking us here. Okay, Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of observations on the back of Councillor McKee's report. It's been another excellent period of delivery in difficult times, and I think what's particularly gratifying about the last period is that you have started to see some long-term projects being completed, and I think we're all very, very pleased about that, particularly the iConstruct project. Even the Braintree pedestrianisation has got trees being planted at the moment, so the final stages of that project are nearly there. And also, whilst Councilman quite rightly mentioned the Live Well Hub, and there are still some hoardings and building activity on the Victoria Square site, it was a real pleasure to be able to attend last Wednesday. Several Cabinet colleagues were there with the Chairman and Vice Chairman, the opening of Travel Lodge. As part of that development, and it was great to hear the team from Travel Lodge, only a few days in, to hear how well the hotel is doing, the interest in the hotel, and a great start. And it's going to be a wonderful facility for the town and for the wider area, and that's being supported by the interest from public and businesses. I'd just also like to make the point once again about the excellent support, delivery, and ability to process business support grants that we've seen. I know we've mentioned it a number of times over the last 2 years, but it continues to demonstrate how the first-class service delivery that the authority has managed in these difficult times, and in circumstances we could never have envisaged, or certainly would never have chosen. It's a positive side of that excellent support to the business communities is that it strengthened the relationship between the council and the businesses, and as we now hopefully move on full steam ahead into this period of recovery, that can only be a very, very positive thing. So another excellent, I think, period of performance by the authority. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Any other comments at all? No. Happy to note the report. Agreed. Thank you. Move then on to item 6 under the heading Economic Growth. Witham and Halstead Town Centre Public Realm Improvements. And this is pages 45 to 50 of your agenda. I'll ask Councillor Cunningham to introduce the paper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to bring this report for approval at Cabinet to enable us to move the projects forward in both Witham and Halstead after improvements have been delivered in Braintree, delivering on our commitment, our long-standing commitment to all town centres, and helping our excellent urban communities of Halstead and Witham and their businesses adapt to the changing times and to enable them to bounce back together post-pandemic. The final designs and deliverables will evolve through the process, and we shall of course keep all local members up to date. So far, we've been very grateful for the excellent working relationships and communications with both the town councils and Essex County Council, who are absolutely key to delivery. Although much smaller schemes than the Braintree programme, we have learnt from the delivery of the Braintree project, and that learning will be employed in the bringing forward of improvements in both Witham and Halstead. Therefore, I'd like to recommend to Cabinet that the recommendations on page 45 and page 46 be agreed, and they are to carry out a tender exercise to appoint highways engineers to deliver a feasibility study which identifies opportunities to provide sections with a new highway layout in Witham Town Centre and Halstead Town Centre. Second one is to appoint design and build contractors to deliver design specification and seek agreement from Essex County Council as a highway authority for public realm improvements in Witham Town Centre. Third, to appoint design and build contractors to deliver design specification and seek agreement from Essex County Council as the highway authority for public realm improvements in Halstead Town Centre. And finally, to delegate authority to the Corporate Director for Growth in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Economic Growth to award the contracts at the conclusion of the procurement process, provided the contracts are within the approved budget of £746,200. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor Mrs. Pell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if you've got any sort of timescale you're looking at, because I know from Halstead's point of view, and probably Witham as well, we've got things planned. Like this Christmas, we have our torchlight procession. We've got things planned for the Queen's Jubilee that I don't think you'll be doing it that quick, will you?
I think that's a fair assumption. What we will be able to do is, once the procurement process has been completed and we're able then to set the timelines fully in motion, we'll be able to give you a full update at the earliest possible opportunity once we have completed that first process.
And we note the important points
Absolutely.
Of the calendar that you're marking up for Halstead.
And also acknowledge the patience shown by not just the Halstead community but also the Witham community when it comes to these improvements. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think from Halstead's point of view, a lot of this is needed. We had a lady knocked down on our pedestrian crossing Saturday morning, and she's in a very bad way. It just goes to show that what we've got, some of it is outdated and needs to be moved on to make it safer.
Points noted. Any other comments or questions from anyone? No? Happy to accept the recommendations? Okay, thank you very much. On to item 6B, to agree the award of 3 skills programmes for the North Essex Economic Board via CELEP, pages 51 to 55 of your agenda. And again, Councillor Cunningham, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move the recommendations on page 51 of the Cabinet report that dictates that it is recommended that the Council award 3 contracts for the provision of skills programme across North Essex via the South East Local Enterprise Partnership Framework as follows. Lot 1, a 1-year contract to Shore Trust for a total valuation of £165,960. Lot 2, a 6-month contract to Tech Talent for a total value of £300,000, and Lot 3, a 1-year contract to We Are Digital for a total value of £81,360. Mr. Chairman, these recommendations are part of a procurement process. The Council has benefited and the District has benefited from being a member of the North Essex Economic Board, which brings several authorities together to work on key economic priorities, to deliver projects against those economic priorities. But part of that process is a formal procurement process has to go through relevant authorities. The North Essex Economic Board includes Braintree District Council, Uttlesford District Council, Colchester Borough Council, Tendring District Council, Malden District Council, Chelmsford City Council and the County Council as well. Other local authorities have been involved in the procurement of certain projects. These projects are funded by a top slicing of additional restrictions grants, some 10% of the additional restrictions grants that was provided from central government to each of the local authorities, and is there, as I say, to support projects that deliver economic recovery and stimulate growth. The overall projects as part of the North Essex Economic Board Delivery Plan are benefiting from a dedicated programme manager, Penny Calder, who works here at Braintree District Council, and in line with the shared arrangements, the additional restriction grant has been used on other projects. For example, Tendring District Council procured a programme of energising Essex events on behalf of NEEB. Malden District Council procured a low-carbon programme for business support, and Essex County Council have procured 5 business support programmes for NEEB. We are acting as the procurement facilitators for this skills-based project. I'm bringing this report to Cabinet as this authority's representative on the North Essex Economic Board, but I would just like to say that the priorities being delivered by NEEB chime exactly with our current economic strategy and are actively informing our refreshed economic strategy, and Councillor Bowers, of course, leads on the skills side and the skills side of that strategy here at Braintree District Council. So, Mr Chairman, as mentioned, I've formally moved recommendations on page 51. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, as Councillor Cunningham says, I'm the Cabinet Member responsible for skills at Braintree District Council, so I thought it just right to say a few words to support this decision and concur with all of the comments of Councillor Cunningham. And as we know, skills are more important now than ever as we bounce back together. Congratulate all those involved in regards getting us to the stage where we are with this. And I'll just sort of pull out a few sort of key things from the report in front of us, because it's fair to say that the 3 skills programmes have specifically been chosen for the need of the digital inclusion for the North Essex economic strategy, and also that chimes very well with our own digital ambitions and our own digital strategy. The programmes are linked with the North Essex key sector growth opportunities, and all 3, from as it says in the report, all 3 skills programmes are currently running in the Select region and have gained interest, and there's a waiting list for this, so it will definitely serve that purpose and will only benefit those people and a lot more. And if we don't do this, then a lot of people will lose out for that digital inclusion. So I fully support this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor McKee.
I think this is a fantastic report and a fantastic outcome for our residents. If you do the maths, you know, there's potentially 360 people who've got either lower paid jobs or no jobs at all. And for us, I'm about to say a measly sum of 550k, but, you know, it's a significant sum of money. But if you do per job that might be created from this programme, it's actually very cost effective to get people, particularly the IT roles, which are, as Sherry Root will attest, they are hard to come by, and to train our own in the district might serve not just the council well, but also serve our businesses well to have those higher IT skills. So I fully support it.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
So just add thank you to Councillor McKee, following on from Councillor Bowers. Of course, the great benefit of doing this way is that we can pull financial resources, we can stretch the money further through economies of scale and have greater reach working with partners. And although we're agreeing a technical procurement governance process decision today, I think it's worth acknowledging that behind some of these projects is a real momentum and demonstrating what you can do when you do work in partnership on key objectives. And it's early days into this partnership. COVID, the pandemic naturally focused attention on more critical priorities, but now as we're coming out of that again, it's painting a picture of what can be done when local authorities work together, and it's very encouraging. Thank you. Thank
you. Any other comments at all? No, if you're not, are you happy to accept the recommendations? Yeah. Agreed. Thank you. Takes us on to item 7 under planning and infrastructure. 7A, open spaces supplementary planning document, open spaces action plan. And Councillor Mrs Spray is going to take this.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, I'm pleased to present the Open Spaces Action Plan for 2022. I think probably you are familiar with this, but for anybody, particularly anybody watching who isn't, it's a table of outline proposals for the provision of new open spaces throughout the district or the enhancement of existing open spaces. And it's a key document that officers turn to when Section 106 money comes forward with developments. It's a way of officers identifying for areas throughout the district, particularly the villages and the towns, where open spaces are needed or where perhaps a refresh is needed. It's a table which is in your papers, which sets out proposals by wards and then by parish. It's a very clear, well-produced document, and thank you to officers who do this. There's no ranking of the proposals, in order of importance. So it doesn't say, this is the most important thing and this is the least important thing, because the way in which any improvements or any new facilities come forward is dependent on how the money comes forward. And Section 106 money from developments does not necessarily, in fact very rarely, comes in one lump sum into a pot. Quite often it's triggered by the number of homes built. So the first 50 homes on a development will trigger the first payment, and the next 50 or 100 more, and so on. So when developments get going, that's when the money comes forward, and officers can have a look and see where it needs to be spent. There are timescales for spending the money. Officers do keep an eye on those to make sure that the money is spent within the appropriate timescale. We have the usual consultation for this one. It takes place with parish councils, ward members, and various internal consultees. And this time around it took place between the 5th of November last year and 28th of January this year. Responses were received from 47 parish councils and one sports group, and they were considered by officers, and where appropriate and suitable they were put into the updated plan. I will just mention at this stage, Chairman, that we do get representations from parish councils that they would quite like to see Section 106 money spent on other things than just open spaces. I mean, at the moment, it's exactly what it says, an open spaces plan, and the money can only be spent on sort of outdoors things. I think many of our particularly smaller villages feel there is a finite number of play areas that they need or that can be improved, and it would be helpful if the money could be spent on more community assets within their villages. So it is on the planning department's to-do list to review Section 106 payments overall, and that would include a review of the OSAP. It is intended to hold that review within this civic year, and I would suggest that a useful way of doing that, particularly with the OSAP, would be to use a member reference group. We used that very successfully for the review of the enforcement process last year, and I think that would be a good route to go down with this. So other than that, I'm happy to take any questions, but the document is in your papers. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just add my support to the review, because I know a couple of the parish councils that I sit on in my county division have made exactly that point, and that I know there are a number who are responsible for the ownership of village halls, etc., which are vital community assets, but frankly, some of them could do with some refurbishment, etc. So I think that would certainly be very welcome to those parish councils. You did say in this civic year, I assume you mean the next civic year, 20...
Oh, apologies. Yes.
I mean, I'm delighted if you can get it in by within the next month, but I think what we're talking about is actually 22, 23, isn't it?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It might be a bit of a stretch to do it within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I also omitted to say that actually the recommendation is on page 56, which is to approve the Open Spaces Action Plan 2022 as set out in Appendix 1 to this report.
Could I suggest that, just so that there is an audit trail, that we add to that recommendation that a review will be carried out, and that with the intention of completing it in the in the civic year 2022-23, and that it's the intention of the Cabinet member to establish a member reference group to assist and participate in that review.
Yes.
Are you happy to accept
Very
that?
happy with that, Chairman, yeah.
Thank you. Right, any comments or questions? Councillor Mrs Schmidt and then Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chairman. It's always a pleasure to see this document because certainly the last 2 years have shown how absolutely vital our open spaces are to us, and people have really begun to appreciate and use them. And certainly for climate change and environment, they're vitally important. And so I very much add my support to this document. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, this is a fascinating document. I read it every time we were asked to review it, primarily because my patch hasn't got a parish council, and therefore the members have to do that work. I mean, it's an incredibly worthy wish list. But what happens, or how can it be used for other than 106 monies? I mean, we're not going to generate sufficient 106 monies ever to achieve what's down here. And you've got to remember that some of the parishes with the longest wish lists are the ones who oppose development most vehemently, and therefore they're not going to have the numbers of houses to generate the 106 funding. So what hope is there for communities in this sort of situation? What are the alternative funding routes to sort of achieve these stated desires, Chairman?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Mann, thank you. I can always rely on you to ask me interesting questions. It's a very good point you make. I'm not sure that I've actually got an answer right now because, of course, you're quite right. And I've got at least, 2 of the 4 villages in my ward where there is very, very small amounts of development, 2 or 3 houses here or there. So it doesn't generate Section 106 money. Yes, all right, I think as part of the review, maybe we need to have a look and see if there are other ways to help them out, because they all put their, as you say, their wish lists together. So I think that's perhaps something we need to look at. I haven't got a better answer for you right now.
That'll do fine, Chair.
Councillor Van Dolken.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would just like to suggest that either within the reference group or otherwise that we give some thought to the allotments. In recent weeks, even, people have started talking about problems with food worldwide, and but in general terms, sustainability, food miles, these are all important things. And I personally, even though I don't have an allotment, I would welcome some emphasis put on this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Dolken. That's a really excellent point, particularly with the push to try and make ourselves a bit more self-sustainable. There are thriving allotments all around the district. There are several within my ward. I mean, I think there's always a waiting list for the plots, so I've made a note of that, and I think that's a really good point.
Any other comments at all? No? Okay, so there's a recommendation in the paper to approve the Open Spaces Action Plan, and we'll add to that, with your permission, that we note the intention of the Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure to carry out a review of this particular policy, involving members through a member reference group, with the intention of reporting back within the next civic year 22-23. You happy?
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. That, I think, brings us to the end. There is no urgent business that I've been informed of. There is no need to exclude the public and press because we have already dealt with the one paper that was in part 2. And so, therefore, I will declare the meeting closed at 8 o'clock.